Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast, your number one resource for all things Husky NCHC hockey related. And last week we were talking about our dearly departed Meatloaf and his hit song, 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. We didn't get 2 out of 3, but we also didn't lose. We got 2 ties and a win over the weekend. Andrew, I'm just right out of the gate here. Is that better or worse than Meatloaf?
It's not as catchy lyrics-wise. He didn't sing 1 win and 2 ties ain't bad. You can tell why I'm the karaoke champ. I think it's better. I mean, it's at least as good as 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I mean, if 2 out of 3 would have been 6 points and then not getting 3 points, and with the shootout win and loss all in there, as it all ended up 6 points, and you gave up 3 points. So from the conference point standpoint, it's exactly what I wanted. And from a pairwise perspective, the lack of losses is, again, not any worse than going 2-1 rather than 1-0-2. So I'll take it. How about you?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, going into it, 2 out of 3, I want to win. I think 2 out of 3, that would kind of be the barometer of the season. And coming out of it with kind of an unlikely scenario with 2 ties and a win, I was happy with the outcome. And not only that, with how everything went. And then I even started kind of going back in my mind thinking maybe, was the panic even justified? Because during our 6-game winless streak, we had leads in 3 of them, and we just ended up losing them, somewhere throughout the game, kind of in different ways as well. One a massive lead that was blown. One was kind of a 3-1 lead against North Dakota that would just kind of slowly just kind of chipped away and whatnot. It was, maybe it's like, things were not clicking, and we could see things were not clicking, but, this is the top tier of the conference and the top tier in the nation. And obviously we want to win these games, but maybe it was just a little bit of gunk in the gears. And this weekend kind of gets us over the hump and gets us kind of moving back in the right direction. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with this weekend. And I think, this is going to be a big test here to make sure that we continue with this momentum.
I would say what a difference the Saturday game makes. I thought it was the biggest win of the year.
That's true.
And if not, they would have lost that game, we'd be singing a whole different tune. Because
especially with how Friday ended as well.
See, exactly.
Now I'm swinging back the other way. That's another game we lost.
Because I wasn't blown away by the Tuesday or the Friday performances. And a lot of the usual suspects were at fault in those games and not turning those into wins. That Friday or that Saturday game then against Western, I think it's the biggest win of the year. And if they would have dropped that game, then I think it's full panic mode. It would have made it even better. I mean, so the Huskies win obviously 4-1 on Saturday, and so we're all happy from the Husky standpoint. And then I tune into the third period of that Denver-Duluth game. That would have been huge if Denver would have won that game, because then it was currently the gap between 5th and 4th, the Huskies and Duluth, is 4 points. Denver would have won that game. It would have been a 1-point difference, which means you basically win that second makeup game in a couple of Tuesdays. You've made up that difference between Duluth, and I would say you're in the driver's seat for home ice at that point. How Duluth ended up winning that game is just so classic Duluth. I want to save that rant and for later. But God, I hate Duluth, and that game is like perfect encapsulation of why. Why don't we stick to the business at hand here and talk about the 3 Husky games first this weekend?
Sounds good. I'm Weldie, sitting here with Andrew, so we'll talk about the first game here on Friday, as usual. how it happens is our conversations will bleed into the whole weekend, but we'll kind of start out here with Friday's game, and that was
we want to talk about Tuesday.
Oh geez, yeah, Tuesday. Let's go back to Tuesday's game.
There we go.
So yeah, Tuesday, Duluth. Just of first and second period, absolutely terrible. It was just Huskies get outshot 16-9 there in the second period. We lackluster, didn't look like we were engaged at all. It was just a gross first two periods of the game. And then we came out in the third. I don't know what was said in the locker room, but it must have been something along the lines of, hey, our season kind of rides on this. And Donahue and Meyer, two defensemen, one early, one with the extra attacker late, were able to score, end up tying it up. So, coming off of, that disappointment in Denver, somehow finding a way to win or, to tie it back up and force overtime, eventually get that tie. It was a big sigh of relief for me.
Yeah, and as you said, getting those goals from unexpected sources. Donahue, not someone, his first goal of the year, not someone that you're looking at for high offensive output.
You're barely looking at him for high output defense too.
Right, yeah. I could rant on that. I'm pretty much done with him, but I mean, he's been on one of the power play units, which again, I can say how much I hate his the slingshot play that he loves and does every single time on the power play. But whatever, we're trying to stay positive here. And his goal might have been the jump start. And last week I was sort of saying that Fanti is perhaps the goalie of the conference, best goalie in the conference, and that was a real weak goal. I thought he let up. Kind of just a fluttering shot that I'm not sure if he didn't see it correctly or what, but a bad goal to give up. And for the rest of that third period, it seemed like the Huskies were in control from a possession standpoint. And Duluth kind of doing their lockdown defensive style was working up until the last minute. Thought the Huskies caught a bit of a break on play that during the empty net coming down. It looked like it could have been a bit of a penalty on the Huskies.
There was a lot of debate on Twitter. I'm curious on where you stand up on that. With Cronulla going down and making a play there in the defensive end. Is that a tripping call? What your eye? What would you say?
I'll need to watch it again. I just remember at the time thinking, I thought that they got away with one. If it was the other way around, if the Huskies were having the lead, and that could have been an empty net goal to ice the win, I would have been up in arms, I'm sure. So I'd have to watch it again to get a better opinion of it. But I just remember at the time thinking I thought they got away with one. What do you think?
It's one of those where I actually didn't think it was a penalty, but I feel that refs call it as a penalty all the time. It was because, when I looked at it live, it looked more like Cronulla got more stick, and it was a stick lift. And I think the UMD player was trying to initiate contact. And then when Cronulla wasn't there, he just kind of slipped out more on his own. And I feel that happens actually quite a bit on tripping calls. And it's called. So it was one of those things that's like, I wouldn't have fault if they would have made the call there. And I also think in that point of the game, I think the ref kind of thought it was a little bit too, could go either way to make a stand. And so I think that's kind of what that ref was kind of thinking. I think it's a judgment call. I've seen it made plenty of times, and I could see both sides of it. And yeah, if I was a UMD fan, I would be salty about it too. However, on the penalty shot, on the shootout, Cronulla's was a goal, and I will stand by that.
Oh yeah.
I know they reviewed that and they looked in that, and I know people were upset about that as well. But that definitely
I didn't.
was the goal. Fanti wasn't pushed in at all.
Yeah, I didn't see much controversy there. I could surprised that they looked at it as much as they did. Although at least
as long as they did
in that instance, I suppose the game literally rides on that call. The game's either over one way or the other. UMD wins the game if they overturn that call. So I mean, at least it's one of those huge kind of momentous reviews. And I'll say the last 2 weeks I'll speak for myself, ranted about terrible refs. I thought the last 3 games were fine. I thought they were the Western Michigan series, they were fine. So it's not like every week I'm going to come here saying that they're terrible refs, but
let's give credit where it's due. And they were fine this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I loved every call, but I thought they were largely inoffensive over the weekend. And in general, getting back to that play, the Cronulla non-call, generally I like letting them play and not over penalizing the action. It's just one of those ones that sticks out because it does have a large effect. But that doesn't, I mean, yeah, you can be a salty UMD fan for them not calling that, but they still needed to score a goal, Huskies, to tie it up, and it was a good play to get it down to Meyer, who tied the game. And then, as you spoiled earlier, they won a shootout, and the overtime was large. It seems like a lot of teams. I know the NHL, they've talked about this, where the 3-on-3 is becoming just sort of boring. It's a puck possession type game, and I've never really been blown away by 3-on-3 in either case. Although I did want to mention, and the announcers were raving about Lutke. I don't know how to pronounce it because I've heard all 3 ways, but I've
heard it both ways.
He was very good, and I like him. I like him a lot.
I thought he's been our best, one of our best defensemen over the last 3 days.
He's definitely more offensive minded. He's more in like an Ashan type defenseman, but there's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to see.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. It's and maybe we'll see some poor defensive play from him sometime down the road. But so far so good. Really liking his development, and maybe that's the biggest surprise of the year. I remember the first few weeks kind of being like, oh, I like this Lutke. But at that point, he was still relegated basically 1 game a weekend. And I don't think that...
And even that was usually 7th defenseman, too.
Yep. And I don't think that... I bet even the coaching staff would probably be surprised if you would have told them back in the summertime that Lutke would be as vital a key to the team as he is now. So I did want to mention that I was impressed by his play. And yeah, you staved off disaster with salvaging the tie. I thought that was important. Again, another frustrating Duluth game. That second goal, it's all the Huskies got a power play, and we're peppering the net. I thought their best sustained pressure to that point in the game, about midway through the second period. And then it's classic Bulldogs. The turnover, UNB gets the puck, and guy's coming out of the box and snaps him for the breakaway, and he scores, of course. They're the code word you use is opportunistic. UMD is a very opportunistic team. It's basically saying that they're lucky. But they convert on those kind of chances pretty much every time they get them. And so, disappointed that you couldn't get a win out of that, but at least you didn't get a loss either. And even the shootout.
Going into the third period, down 2-0 with that effort, and then coming back, end up salvaging a tie. That made me feel happy. So,
yeah, here's a trivia question for you. I was doing some research on this earlier today.
Put me on the spot.
Well, we had two games. So the Duluth game and then the Western Michigan game. The Huskies were down 2 goals in that game. They ended up tying those games. Didn't win. Do you know how many times the Huskies have won in regulation this year coming from behind? They were losing in the game and they came back to win in regulation.
They came back to win. I don't think we have this year.
Just one. And it was the home game against Bemidji. If you remember, Bemidji scored like a minute in. And then the Huskies took over and won pretty convincingly. Yep. They won a couple of overtime games coming back or they've lost, excuse me. There's been a couple of, they won the overtime game in CC when they were down. They were down 2-1 in that game. And they've lost a couple of overtime games that they've come back to tie. Some of these are, I did kind of researching this. It was surprising how many times they have had late last 5-minute game tying goals. Now, maybe we forget them because they lost these games in overtime, but the home game against the Gophers, famous call on Perbix in overtime, but that was a game they tied with 5 minutes left in regulation. The Omaha loss at home, which we were very disappointed in, but that was a game that Fitzgerald tied late in the last 5 minutes to bring it to overtime. Then Omaha won in overtime. And then obviously the last minute goal to tie the game here against Duluth in a game. These are the first 2 games this year that they've come back from 2-goal deficits in games to win. So what you were talking about last week is, when the Huskies are punched, we haven't seen a ton of fight back after getting punched in the face. And the lack of coming back in games has been troubling. This week you didn't win these games against Denver, Duluth, and Western, the Tuesday and Friday games, but you didn't lose those games. And coming back from 2 goals in each case, a good sign from this team, something that we haven't seen too much this year. So, another step in the right direction in that regard.
And one thing that led me to kind of guess 0 is that for the longest time, we didn't allow a first period goal.
Right.
So I would assume that, in a lot of those games we were up 1-0. So switching over, Western Michigan game on Saturday or on Friday. Now I can finally go to that one, right?
Yep.
5-5. And what a barn burner that was. Here's the thing, and this is kind of a thing all weekend, and I've been harping on this a little bit as well, but Nolan Walker and Easton Brodzinski, their last goals were against Miami. So neither of them have put a puck in the back of the net since then. And Easton has been in trouble for a lot of other wrong reasons of bad penalties, pseudo benching, 10-minute misconduct, and whatnot. So, this was kind of a coming out weekend, really, for especially Molinar, who was just nothing really short of sensational over the weekend. I think his goal, especially, down 3-1, you think it's just everything's going to get out of hand and everything's going to everything's not going the Huskies' way, and you just think that this is another collapse is kind of on the horizon. And just Molinar's effort play to just push through, make a play, and score was just it was something that I just didn't expect from him. I wonder if he got talking to from the coaches, like, hey, you've got this skill, you should utilize it more instead of just your typical fourth line, just get it in deep and grind out. But his goal, and I believe there was a penalty called on that as well, because they helped Molinar.
Yep.
Or they hooked him, and then we scored on the power play. Spencer Meyer scored, and then we're like, okay, we're back in business. And then it was another just all-out effort play out of Micah Miller, and it was just like these, Micah Miller, who was no stranger to the score sheet, especially this year. But it was just his hustle and his tenacity that really created that play as well. And it was like those two guys just willed this comeback, and to get it to 4-3 going into the third period and whatnot. And just seeing that it gave me life, because all that happened within what, 2-3 minutes. I think 3 minutes, maybe a little bit more. So it was, I went from just defeated to elated in a matter of minutes, and hockey does that to you. So yeah, it was quite the ride, that's for sure.
The game, good start for the Huskies. Score 2 minutes in or so. Long cross ice pass from Pert to Miettinen, and then a little touch pass. Nice tip by Okabe. And you're thinking, great, super start. Western then scores in their first 2 shots of the game. And once they went up 3-1 on a power play goal early in the second.
And those 2 shots were within
20 seconds.
10 seconds, yeah. 20 seconds of each other, something like that. It was bang, bang. It was,
Yeah, and then the third goal, at some point, I think the third goal was either their 8th or their 9th shot. Not a great performance from Renek on the weekend.
I thought I would have pulled him at that point. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily just the goals, but it was his body language afterwards. Yeah. He was slamming his stick down. He was slumped over. And I thought at that point, you get him ready for Saturday. You pull him and put Castor in. Now, Huskies came back anyway, so I guess it didn't matter. You got, the result that you wanted from that. But it was just his body language. I was like, you got to get him out of that net. He is not into this game at all.
Well, and then the tying goal, I didn't think was a good goal either. No. Even on Saturday, he only gave up 1 goal, but that was a terrible goal to give up, and I thought a crusher at that point. You're up 2-0, and then that one kind of let Western back in the game. I was not feeling very good heading into the third period on Saturday. Well, I'll get back to Friday though. But yeah, I was not impressed by Renek this weekend. So that was kind of my feeling was, here we go again. Once they get up 3-1 on Friday, and as you said, that was the turning point in the game, was that Molinar goal / penalty that ended up launching St. Cloud into a 4-3 lead, after the second, after 2 periods. And at that point, so it was a very seesaw affair. A lot of, great start from the Huskies, and then 3 goals in a row from each team. Got the, emotional swings there. It was an entertaining game if you like a lot of offense, and the Huskies unable to win the shootout there. I was going to say that the shootout win on Tuesday was pretty big. I mean, he couldn't get the 3 points from Duluth, and they're the team you're really trying to catch for home ice. But at least getting the extra point is nice. Couldn't do the same thing against Western Michigan on Friday night. But again, it was nice to see at least the offense coming back to life. But in the same sense, second week in a row, you're scoring 5 goals and not winning a game, which is not a good recipe for late season success generally.
And this was another instance where I feel other than Lutke, I would even say, but every other member of the defense was just a letdown. Donahue got burned on that game-tying goal where he just swung at air. Meyer had a terrible play where he coughed that up. Peart, I think, overall, throughout the whole weekend, other than that long stretch pass, I thought he was a liability especially in our own end. And one of our questions from Go Huskies Woo talked about Peart, and so we'll get back to that in our question segment. But it was just like you're literally costing us these games with how this defense is being played, and that's just something that needs to get shored up.
Yeah, it does, because in the playoffs, it's about defense. You're not going to win. You're not going to see a ton of 6-5 games in the NCAA tournament, and so that's really the formula for success in tournament play. And yes, having Perbix hurts. We've said that until I'm going blue in the face saying that, and his absence kind of forces everybody to step up a level, and some are able to do that better than others.
Only Lutke has.
But yeah, I haven't really seen much of any stellar play from the back end, and even going before Perbix's absence, it's been a while. That North Dakota series was not good either, and you were in Perbix himself was not good, especially on that first North Dakota game. So as a unit, the defense needs to step up. Been saying that, and another week's worth of games here has shown us that it's still a bit of a problem. So let's hope that they can use a good week here as a springboard, and now you're getting into, I don't want to say a lighter part of the schedule, but they are bottom half of the league teams in Omaha and then CC. You do have that second Duluth game in between those two series, but maybe that will help some confidence. Let's hope. Like I said, that Saturday game was so key because we'd be talking a lot differently if they didn't win that game. And glad they were able to finish off a good Western team in that game, and keep this in mind too as far as this week goes. I mean, this at Saturday, that would have been their 5th game in 8 days. It's not a type of game load that these players are used to. I mean, the some that were in most of the team that was the non-freshmen, let's say, would have experienced something of that kind of schedule last year in the Omaha pod. But aside from that, not the typical schedule that you're facing in college hockey, especially in the Western leagues. So maybe that is a bit of a factor into that. But at the same time, the 5th game of that run, the 5th of the 8, was the best one they played. So I don't know if you can really chalk it all up to being tired and whatnot. So it was good to see them come out on Saturday and get that win. And as we mentioned last week, I texted you that we could chalk this one up another one of our victories because we called out that 4th line last week.
Yep.
Being pretty unsatisfied with the Molinars and the Brands and these kind of players, and that 4th line maybe was the best line of the week or the weekend against Western. Molinar obviously 2 goals then on Saturday to add to his 1 goal on Friday. So 3 goals on the weekend. Brand had a couple of assists. I liked Thomas Rocco stepping in for Spalacy, who looked rough on Friday, took a couple of penalties. So unsurprisingly, Spalacy was benched in favor of Rocco, who I thought you noticed him in the few opportunities that he had, and so he's stepping up and relishing.
I thought Rocco was a workhorse. I thought he did well, and I didn't think he had the best game on Tuesday because he was in the lineup there. I didn't really notice him, but he's been rotating in and out, and I thought definitely on Saturday his presence was known. So it's Brodzinski, Walker, no goals from them. And, it's the blow up against Miami was the last time that we've seen them touch the score sheet. So hopefully they can get that.
Real quickly, on Saturday, it was a 2-1 lead. And it was in the 3rd period, and Huskies were on a power play. And they brought out Brodzinski. They had 4 forwards. They had Brodzinski playing the point.
They had four forwards in Donahue, which I was like, what are we doing?
And sure enough, Western got a good scoring opportunity.
They got a really good chance, yeah.
And I'm like, it's hard, I guess, to judge a head coach during games, and especially like substitute head coaches. It's tough to figure out what to criticize for, but that's one where I'm like, I'm not a huge Brodzinski guy. I think he's mostly a one-tool player. he's not a great defensive guy, at least. I mean, he's not 1-2. I mean, he's a physical player and he's a finisher for you. I don't think he's much of a playmaker, and I don't think he's much of a defensive presence. So I don't love him. But I realize he has his value. But that's just one area. That's one decision. And I can also see the perspective of best defense is a good offense. If we score this goal here, we basically will ice this game. And I think that was the power play they ended up scoring the third goal on. It wasn't wasn't that Brodzinski line. It was later on in that power play. But that was one. I'm not sure if Larson would have made that call. And so maybe I'm nitpicking here, but that was one issue where I was just like, it seems strange. Seemed like something that Larson wouldn't do, and they almost got burned by it, but thank God they didn't.
And that's where I know for a while that was especially in fashion to have 4 forwards and 1 defense on the power play, but I feel like you got to kind of tailor to your personnel. If you've got puck movers on the blue line, you don't need to do that. And I think we do have enough puck movers on the blue line where we don't need 4 and 1.
Or I'm not against four guys on a power play, just not Brodzinski to play to get the guy on the back end there.
I don't know. I see. I'm a little bit less of a fan of 4, and obviously that's all situational and whatnot. And Molinar's goal was, just that great work in front of the net. They did go in and review it for a little bit, but came out quickly and said it was a good goal. So, one thing I wanted to point out was, probably one of the best offensive defensemen in the nation, Ronnie Addard, was, I thought, invisible all weekend. I thought there were only a couple times where he stood out, and every time that he made a heck of a play, something would kind of go awry. But it was, credit to the Huskies for really shutting him down. And, that might be the key to kind of stifling this Western Michigan offense. And Ethan Frank obviously had, a pretty good weekend as well. But, I think you're only going to stop one of those two. The fact that we held Addard without a point all weekend, I think at least that was a bright spot for our defense.
I thought Bussy played pretty well for them. I mean, again, giving up 5 goals as Rennick did on Friday doesn't bode well for your stat sheet, but on Saturday kept him in the game long. It wasn't until the second period when the scoring started. Thought he was impressive. Western's a weird team to me. I wonder how they're going to do in the tournament. They're one of those teams that they can look really good and then they can look fairly pedestrian. And so I'm wondering which team will show up, but they gave the Huskies a good test. And they've got some depth as well. I was impressed. I mean, that pass hold has never been very, standout kind of star player for me, but maybe it's just because he's been in the league for 8 years that he had several opportunities.
He's on this year's all Van Wilder team.
Yeah, we have Fitzgerald also on that team.
Fitzgerald's on it
as well. Yeah, it's the guys, both those guys too. They look like they could be running an insurance agency. They've got a bit of age in the face going, and
I really wish I could remember the tweet that I sent out about Fitzgerald and just about how old he looked. And it's like, yeah, it looked like he would be selling me insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and yeah, Frank is over 20 goals now on the year. And like I said, I think that Bussy can steal you a game here and there. So it's a team. They're kind of like, I could see them losing their first game to a 4 seed, or going to the Frozen Four. Like I could see it both ways for Western, but as it stands, them being very high in the pairwise, these were 2 good good results for the Huskies. 1 win and then a tie against them, and they're back up to 8th, I believe, in the pairwise now. Huskies with
Correct.
that,
yep.
With this 3 1-0-2 stretch, which is basically where they were at the start of this little slide. So got to keep it up. I mean, at this point, losing games to Omaha and CC might have more of a negative effect than winning types of games against like Western is going to boost you. So each of these games, they're all important from here on out. So
Minnesota Quinnipiac and Minnesota Duluth are all are 5, 6, and 7, and all of them are tied at 53 comparisons. So if it goes 53, 53, 53, and then 50. So as far as a comparison, we got quite a bit here, but as far as an RPI standpoint, we're obviously right in the thick there.
yeah, seems like their goalie issue didn't sink their season like some people would.
Kidding.
But yeah, a good week of hockey for the Huskies, and hopefully let's see some more going forward.
I tweeted out that Kevin Fitzgerald is second on my oldest looking Huskies all time list.
Who's number one? I remember I'm gonna guess Garrett Rowe because he looked pretty old. I mean, he was an insurance salesman looking guy too.
He kind of struck me as more of a used car salesman kind of guy, and I think maybe because he was short, so maybe he'd come up in a hand-me-down suit and tell me why he could fit into this.
He's a guy that wears
LeBaron.
Wears his sunglasses backwards on his head, like get Guy Fieri style. I could see that.
No, number one, Michael Olson. if you remember Michael Olson.
It's been years since I've thought about that name. That's he looks like the husband of my cousin, who's like 40, 48 or something. So
that was when he played.
That was when he was in college. That was his yearbook picture, so to speak. Wow.
I'll throw it up on my Twitter page, another picture or a picture of him. So don't feel left out.
From what I remember of Garrett Rowe, I think you made the right call there.
Yeah, so our Go Huskies Woo player of the week. Got to come up with a sound effect. So, what do you have for our POW?
I think I've mentioned. My two candidates, Lutke. I think I'm going to go with Molinar though. I'll give him the shout out and 3 goals on the weekend. And especially, that one goal on Friday, as we said, kind of the turning point in that game. And then obviously the game winning goals difference in the game there on Saturday. So I'll go with Joe Molinar.
Yeah, I think Molinar's the right pick. Anytime you have 3 goals, and not only that, but the way those goals were scored too. I mean, you had the one where you also do the penalty where you just it was just an effort goal. You had the grease pan type goal that was just completely missing. I tweeted out a picture of the shot chart on Friday, first period, wondering why we were losing or whatnot. And just the whole front of the net was just absolutely bare. There was just absolutely no penetration. So it was, to see Molinar kind of get to that area and be successful. And granted, it was on the power play, but still, it was some of these goals. I just think we've been lacking. I think, Mietninen's not getting to that area. He's been trying to shoot from, 30 feet and trying to hit corners and whatnot. And, Brodzinski's been trying to do the same thing. So it's, to see that was awesome to see. And I think that's where, I think that's where Molinar really kind of shined. So I would say him. Go Huskies Woo agrees, but also wanted to say Lutke too, where he was, by far and away our best defensive player. And, one of the questions that he asked, I might as well just bring this in now since we're talking about it. Peart's pass for that first goal on Friday to Mietinen to Okabe tip, does that make up for all of his defensive lacks throughout the weekend? And, the obvious answer for me is no. And I've got a theory about him, but I want to, first, what were your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, no. I agree with you that And
I mean, it was a
maybe
lot of lazy passes, like right out in front of the slot too. Like it was not good.
Yeah, and I mentioned last week. It seems like he's trying to do some of the same tricks that he may have gotten away with, in lower levels of hockey. And we mentioned he had a bit of a learning curve at the beginning of the season. It didn't look all that great either. I'm wondering, and maybe it's the flip side of Lutke, where Lutke had like no expectations coming into the season, and he's surprised, and we're singing his praises now. Is it the flip side going on where we're giving Peart a long leash here because second round draft pick and Mr. Hockey and all this? If he didn't have, I didn't follow him in high school. I didn't know. I didn't watch him play until this season. If he was an undrafted guy that came in here similarly to Lutke with had kind of no expectations, I would be like, this guy doesn't deserve the ice time. So maybe I'm giving him the longer leash because he's got all this hype coming into the season. But to me, if I'm stripping away hype and all that sort of potential, because I do think he's a talented player, obviously, but if I'm ignoring all of the sideshow sort of aspects with him, I think he's been a bust this year.
Whoa, throwing out the B word.
And there's plenty of time left in his career here to right the ship. And so I'm willing to give him I'm not gonna trash him, but it's
calling him a bust sounds like kind of a trash.
Maybe it's we light a fire here. We don't. That
happened with the fourth line. We light a fire under them. So
we've done that. We did that with Kuka earlier this year.
4-point weekend. 4-point weekend coming up for Peart.
We do this out of love because we're trying to motivate. God, we know all the team listens to this show religiously. Well,
obviously. What else are they going to do?
Exactly. So I'm doing it out of love and out of a. Yeah, I wouldn't do this. I'm not saying Brady Zemer. He's a bust. There's no future left in there. I'm using the harsher language because of, again, the amount of hype that he had coming into the season, and I just expect more from someone that comes in with that kind of these kind of expectations. Just from the defensive side of the game, it's not working for me right now. And you can be an offensive first defenseman. Like we've said, I think that's how you'd classify a guy like Lutke and guys like they've had in the past, like a Sean and these guys certainly had an offensive edge to their game and use that as a main part of their style of play. And I really do think, so he had that first month or so that was rough. Then I thought he played well, coming into second half of the year. He's kind of regressed back to the October self here, but we have seen good stretches of him. And so I'm not saying that it can't be turned around here going forward, and I certainly hope so. But yeah, I don't know exactly what happened in the last month or so, where he has looked slow on the first step. He's getting burned a lot. He's got a lot of careless puck handling, leading to some sloppy turnovers, directly leads to goals for the other team. Just elementary bad defensive play. He's not doing enough offensively or in any other aspects of the game to offset these issues. So yeah, maybe it's too early to say bust, but just for this year, not exactly. He's not your rookie of the year. Let's put it that way.
Here's the thing: is that he still drives a lot offensively. Sitting here right now, from a points per game standpoint, he's our second most points per game defenseman. Perbix obviously 1.5 points per game, and then Pert's at 0.68 points per game. 13 assists on the year. So there's clearly value there. And I actually kind of equate this quite a bit to Jimmy Schultz freshman year, where I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Whereas the game hasn't slowed down for Peart yet. I feel like the game has slowed down a little bit more for Lutke, and he's seeing things a little bit on a wider scope. I think Peart just needs to adjust the fact that he doesn't have time in this league. And I think he's just thinking he has more time that he does, and he's just getting burned by it. I think once that clicks for him, I think it's going to be he's going to be a showstopper. And he's going to need to make these mistakes to learn. And I know that's tough when we're really have the makeup of a championship team, a team that lost in the championship last year. But I think he's going to adjust to these mistakes and learn from them and turn out to be a heck of a player. It's just at this point, yeah, Lukey has surpassed him, and I think Peart will get there, but I don't think he's above criticism at all.
Yeah, I'm not even saying that Lukey is past him necessarily. It's just, again, I think a lot of this has to do with expectations. And
on the defensive zone, yes, he's past him.
Yeah. So and what we also have to keep in mind, Lutke had 2 full years of junior experience with him. Peart did have about a half season's worth of juniors. Played 24 games with Fargo last year after high school, handful of games the year before. And so he's much closer to the true freshman, which very rare nowadays. The guy like Ryan Paling. He's the exception. These guys are the exception to the rule nowadays. Guys that have less than a full season of junior hockey experience in them. So, a guy like Luke, he's a little older and he has experience playing at that elevated level above high school. And so a bit of that learning curve for Peart that could have taken place in Fargo or some other place in the USHL is taking place here at the NCHC level, which kind of like him being at the juniors, which never really happened because the juniors were postponed. That experience at the higher level is going to make the development curve is going to be a quicker one because you're stepping into higher level of play at an earlier age. Let's just hope that this is the bad year. This is the year of development, and we saw that with Chalowski. He was not very good his 1 year, as it turned out, and now he's had some NHL experience this series with the Kraken. I know. I don't think he's been on the roster much of this year, but I know he's had some action, and so he was able to turn it around, and he's playing in the pros now too. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'd probably say it's likely that Peart becomes in 2 years. Let's say. Do you think he hangs around for 2 more years?
Yes.
In 2 years, he's the best defenseman on the roster. Sure, I wouldn't be shocked. I would almost expect it. But right now, he's become a bit of a liability on the back end. And so hopefully this is just a playful calling out session and we can see some a stepped up performance like we've done. Our magic touch this year of calling guys out, it generally works. So let's hope that remains the case.
Can't wait till Friday where he gets a checking from behind penalty
in the first shift.
First shift kicked out of the game. I did bring up his point total, but it is of note, and I should call myself out for this. He was pointless against North Dakota, against Denver, Tuesday against Minnesota Duluth, had one assist in the Western Michigan series. So in the last 7 games, he's only had 1 point. So
that correlates to the rough part of the schedule for St. Cloud. They've won one of those games, so maybe there's a correlation there of performance, and so yeah, it's I'm not giving up on him, but I'm getting a little frustrated.
Switching over here, let's hop over to Omaha, and Omaha here on the horizon. What a roller coaster year. They beat up on not so good teams early in the year. Jumped out. What were they? 7-1, something like that. And then just the wheels have fallen off for them, to where they even got swept by lowly Miami last weekend. So it's
Oof.
but Omaha, it definitely is going to be a pairwise killer if you drop some of these games here. These are the games that, good teams, you're going to have to win these, and on a reeling team, that lost 3 out of the last 4, ended up coming back and beating North Dakota in overtime. But these are the games, these are the series here that you have to come out and really put up solid efforts to get wins. I don't really care if it's on the road.
Yeah, I think a sweep here is kind of needed, especially with so you got Duluth has got Miami this weekend, and then they have North Dakota at home. That could be flip flopped. Check that for me. But basically, the next 2 weeks, you got St. Cloud has Omaha and CC. Both teams, they're 6th and 7th in the conference, whereas Duluth gets Miami, terrible team, but then they get a tougher test in North Dakota. So
They've got North Dakota.
They got them this weekend.
North Dakota this weekend, and then
at
Tuesday at
Miami.
St. Cloud, and then
Well,
just coming right from North Dakota here to St. Cloud. Then,
well, no, or yeah, that's next. Yeah, I'm sure they probably would, because that's next Tuesday. Yeah. So, yeah, and now with the 4-point deficit, I would say this is the weekend you can make up those points. I mean, I would assume Duluth's going to sweep Miami. So, and I would assume that St. Cloud's going to sweep CC that weekend. So this is the weekend you want to make hay, you want to climb, at least make up a game here on Duluth if you can. You wonder if, Omaha getting swept at Miami, are they going to come out in a similar fashion, playing North Dakota a few weeks ago when St. Cloud played them they're at the tail end of a long losing streak. Is this another sort of trap weekend where they're going to come out extra PO'd because of a poor weekend against Miami? You hope not. I'm thinking St. Cloud's going to take care of them pretty good. One of the games I'm going to say is a rout, and then another one of the games will be close. But Omaha is a team that certainly can win a game here and there. They play a similar style to the Huskies, I'd say. They like to score goals, and they did win one of the games in St. Cloud earlier this year, an overtime win, a game in which the Huskies, I thought, really outplayed them, but Miami was able to steal one there. And so generally the Huskies play pretty well and match up pretty well against Omaha, and I'm expecting that this weekend. Hope it happens. And you look at Omaha with the sweep at Miami this year. 3-5 versus combined versus CC and Miami this year. That's killer. That's going to be the difference between them making the tournament or not. And seeing their schedule the end of the way here, all at home, but St. Cloud, Denver, and North Dakota. They're at 17 and 13 right now. I don't know if there's any ties in there right now, but let's check that out here real quick. Nope, just 17 and 13. But they got these 6 games plus whoever they play in the playoffs, which is going to be on the road. Does Omaha finish the year 500 or not? I'm going to say no.
Oh, that's really close. I don't know if they do. I mean, overall, I think they do. No, they don't. They maybe, I don't know. If you give me a bet, even money on it, it's a coin flip, I think.
I mean, they never beat Denver. North Dakota, they generally don't beat. And St. Cloud, they struggle against. And they're going to play either North Dakota or Denver or Western probably in the playoffs. I don't see it happening.
I don't see it. Yeah, maybe you're right. It's quite the collapse for them. I mean, then again, what they played Long Island, Alaska.
I mean, yeah, terrible non-conference. Alaska 4 times. Yeah, they're highest. The team that they played in non-conference that's highest in pairwise is Lake Superior, which is somewhere in the mid 30s. So pretty terrible non-conference schedule. So the record, even as it is 17-13, a bit deceiving because didn't get much of a test in non-conference, and like I said, dropping 5 games to CC and Miami combined is not good. So these are games that the Huskies should win, and if they want a chance at home ice for the playoffs, you really have to get it done this weekend.
And this is where I think Rennick kind of has to be on his game. Omaha is a team that
Yeah.
they you look at they average a little over 3 goals per game. So it's Seville is very hot or cold. I think that's a good reason why you say that one's going to be a close game, one's going to be maybe a little bit not so close, but it's a weekend where 6 points, five, even if we do another four, I think it's going to be from a pairwise at least. So if we just switch it over to a pairwise, win and a tie, I think at minimum. But obviously a sweep I think is monumental when it comes to St. Cloud's chances for the tournament.
I wonder if they give this Roden a start in one of the games. He's played a game in the last 2 years each against St. Cloud and looked very good. Shut him out last year in the pod, and then he was the starter when they won their overtime game against them this year. I know that he's only played 7 games this year, so he's getting, Seville is getting the vast majority of the work. But Roden's played very well against St. Cloud, and Seville, look at his career numbers, pretty pedestrian. In 907 save percentage his first 2 years, this year at 901. I mean, these aren't numbers that are lighting the world on fire, and that's including playing, at least in this year, against that stretch of terrible non-conference opponents. So that's even considering a light schedule for part of the year. So I remember after they played him in November, thinking why they don't give Roden more ice time, because it seems like he's better goalie, but seems to be Seville's job to lose. So I just wouldn't be surprised if they gave that Roden one of the games this weekend. We shall see.
I was just looking at his stats. What happened in that Miami Omaha game in November?
The
Wow.
late choke, and Miami had like 15 shots all game.
Yeah, Seville let 9 saves, allowed 4 goals on 13 shots. Yowza.
Yeah, not great, and I didn't see any of the games this weekend, but I can't imagine those were pretty either. Miami tripling its number of conference wins over the course of the weekend, going from 1 to 3, and pretty much put a nail into Omaha. Well, I guess not, because you have this tough schedule here. If they run the table, let's say, which ain't happening, but let's just say it does, then they could make up some pairwise ground. But pretty much, I'd say realistically, it's going to have to be winning the tournament or not, as far as getting into the NCAAs. So, and I don't see that happening either. So hopefully this is a case of the team is on a downslide, Omaha, and St. Cloud is looking to get every points they can. Desperate team in a situation like this, and hopefully they come out as the hungrier team and get the job done and make this a business trip and take care of business. Let's hope we see it.
Just because I was looking at, the schedules and whatnot, I landed on Minnesota Duluth here. They're sitting right now at 15, 11, and 3 overall. And with, 3 games for sure and a very high probability of 5 games against St. Cloud left, a little bit of stumble and a sweep of all those games for St. Cloud, we could eliminate Minnesota Duluth from the tournament right now this season. How crazy would that be? They'd be sitting at like ninth in the pairwise and get Wisconsin ruled out of the tournament.
Yeah, they are. They are as high as they are. I'd say. I mean, Cratch has them as the number one strength of schedule, Duluth. So I think the fact that their record is, 4 games above 500, factor in the fact that the computers, at least, have their schedule as being the toughest. That does wonders for you. Whereas a team like Quinnipiac, 25-3-3, but they're at 5th in pairwise or in Cratch because their strength schedule is at 38th in the country. So the strength of schedule, it's one thing that I've kind of noticed is I think the computers value strength of schedule a little too much. But
yeah, they do.
There's issues with pairwise that go beyond that. It's just such a small sample size, and so I think that's why I don't like I'm fine using the pairwise, and I like using some sort of objective standard to sort these teams out. But I think there's becoming an over reliance on it. Like, so between 7th and 10th, so Duluth, St. Cloud, UMass, and Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech, I'll give you props, by the way. You picked them to make the tournament, and they were up to like 6th. They lost this last weekend, so they're down to 10, but they look pretty strong for the tournament right now. Anyway, those 4 teams are separated by 0.01 RPI points. Duluth at 5.738. Tech, the 10th team, at 5.639. So 0.0099 points of RPI. But as we saw in years past, they just separate. So Duluth is going to be the 7th seed, and Tech's going to be the 10th seed, and that's how they're going to be seeded. Where there's such a small gap in the math between those 4 teams, I think what they should do is use the formula to establish like groups of teams. And then within those groups, you kind of move teams around because there really is no material difference between those 4 teams. I mean, it's because, Duluth, the teams that only, St. Cloud and Duluth are the only teams of those 4 teams that have played one another in the regular seasons. How accurate is that math in separating that Duluth is a better team than UMass, and Duluth deserves to be two slots ahead of them? Doesn't make much sense to me. So yeah, I don't know why we got on this, but yeah, looking at the records, especially now with the overtime losses and wins, how they factor that into the thing is stupid. I know that I was listening to the CHN podcast, and apparently there was some Notre Dame fan that was all up in arms about how low Notre Dame is in the rankings because they're 21-9 is their record, but they're at 13. And they're like, well, they got like 5 overtime wins, and they played a terrible non-conference schedule. Like, this is how that's why they're as low as they can be. And
so let's say you're the commissioner then. All right, Andrew's the commissioner, and we're gonna rework the NCAA tournament. In your eyes, do you have the pairwise as it is now as that guide for all of the team? Like, here's the top 16, or obviously with conference, auto bids and whatnot. Here is your group, and then put the human element into that to kind of match them up. More of an eye test, so to speak, or do you even pick outside of that? Do you use that as a guide, but it's like it's a material difference, but it's such a small, cutoff. But I do think maybe like a Notre Dame is in over a team that would otherwise wake it, like a Michigan Tech, who is able to make all those ties. Something like that. How would you want your NCAA tournament? You are the commissioner. Go.
Putting me on the spot here. If there's a way, if the computer spits out, here's the top 15 teams. According to, you can use Cratch, you can use RPI, you can use the pairwise, which is using the RPI as one of its factors in determining comparisons between teams. So, but even there, like, there could be a situation. Yeah. So right now, the 15 and 16 teams, you can even go down to 17. Clarkson at 15, they got 5411 in RPI. UMass Lowell, 5408. Northeastern, 5406. So the difference between 15 and 17 is 0.0005 points. It's minuscule. And so if you're just going the hard line, which is how the committee has done it in recent memory, Clarkson is the 15th team. That's the cut line. And Lowell and Northeastern are out because of that. And I think there's some flaws in that. So, yeah, I would say kind of using it, maybe establish a cut line, or at least then, let's say if in this situation, let's say Lowell or Northeastern, one of those teams had played Clarkson in the regular season and beaten them. Maybe then I'll bump that team above Clarkson in that case. So maybe I'm not using that as like a hard and fast, this is the line of who's qualified and who's not.
I gotcha.
But then also in between that, well, first, if I'm the commissioner, I'm getting rid of the current NCAA format. I'm going back to campus sites. I'm going to 2 out of 3 series in the first round. What I hate about the NCAA tournament right now, it's just so random. And it doesn't produce legitimate winners enough of the times, or convincing winners.
Here comes your Duluth bias again.
Well, if Duluth were to have won playoff, like 2 out of 3 series in a couple of these, like the NHL. NHL's had all these sorts of like 8 seeds winning or underdogs winning and 1 seeds, losing the first round. The difference there is, when the LA Kings won it as an 8 seed, they had to win 16 games to do that. It's less of a fluke when you have to win that volume of games. And as the lower seed, having to do it on the road so often. When it's the NCAA tournament, you're playing 4 games in front of often like 0 crowds in terrible ice conditions. You're not facing any sort of hostile environments going into another team's building to do it. And so there's just this degree of randomness that makes it all that more unsatisfying. So when it's when a 8 seed like the Kings can do that, at least they've had to play a bunch of games in order to establish the fact that they were able to win 16 games. Whereas as it is now, it's just not enough volume of action for me to do that. So I would, and in order so when you're picking the field, then it's the top, whoever is getting home ice. That becomes a lot more important to the selection process.
I don't know if you remember back in, point or our 1.0 podcast when we talked about this, and I was firmly in the camp of we got to keep trying neutral sites, but we got to have, go after AHL, USHL arenas more versus, we'll get into it in a little bit, Allentown or Albany or whatnot, where it's notoriously terrible conditions. Try those first. And if that's still not feasible, then go back to campus. I have switched. I'm coming back to, I agree, campus sites. And not only that, you're right on 2 out of 3. And I say for the first 2 rounds, 2 out of 3 at the higher seed, you get the atmosphere, you get you reward your top seeds. I think having a series will institute more of a gate, but I think also you're going to even see worse attendance because not only is it, you're going to see worse attendance, in the regionals this year, not only because of the locations are garbage again, but the fact that there's an extra day now in between the regionals. So it's like, okay, now I got downtime in Allentown. What am I going to do? And it's just even less of a reason to go out to an NCAA regional, no matter where it is. So I think it was an experiment, and I agreed, it was a push forward at that time. The demand's not there. Let's go where the demand is. And I think it's back on campus.
Well, yeah, and I don't expect the NCAA to do that. I mean, keep in mind, this is an experiment now. We've got 30 years of data about how terrible neutral site regionals have been. This isn't just something that we've been trying for 5 years and, COVID screwed it up. No, we've got a long history of how terrible these regionals are. And the stupidest thing about it is that the times that they get good attendance is when you have a host team that's close to a school, making it a non-neutral site, essentially. I mean, yeah, when
where they're automatically placed, yeah,
it's like the St. Cloud had to play North Dakota in Fargo for a regional final a few years ago. Like, tell me that's a neutral site? Playing in front of a sea of green? No, thank you. And so it's this discrepancy. It's this logical fallacy of we want neutral sites, but we also want attendance. And the only way we can get attendance is if we give a team essentially home ice advantage. Yeah, it might not be the actual home rink. Sometimes, I mean, they've played at the Ralph regional games. They've played at Notre Dame in years past in their campus facility. So it just doesn't work. And they're trying. I mean, I'm assuming they've like trying to ape the March Madness. They think that the basketball tournament's going on at the same time, and that's a cash cow. So that's what we do in the NCAA's. They got to realize, and again, this is 30 years into this, got to realize college hockey is not as popular as college basketball and never will be. It won't be a fraction of the amount of eyeballs that watch the regional hockey games and they do any of the football. Like the cheesiest football bowl game is going to outdraw the Frozen Four even. Frozen Four is actually the one thing that it generally they've done it right, and they generally get a sellout crowd for that. So, yeah, in your preferred experience, your preferred format, it would have been the format they did for a few years, late 80s, early 90s, where it was 2 out of 3, the first 2 rounds at the higher seed. And I believe that was a 12-team tournament at the time, and I believe the top 4 seeds got a bye into the second round. So if you were a lower seed, you had to win that first series to get in to play one of the top 4 seeds, and then going into the Frozen Four. Once it's at the Frozen Four, it's just a one and done for all the games.
Yep.
And I'm fine with that.
I'm okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that format.
Don't touch that. It's good enough for conference to have a series. So why not have it for the NCAA? And you don't even have to extend it out because you get a downtime week in there anyway.
Yeah, and if you're, I think a lot of the rationale for going away from that and then eventually employing the pairwise was it's the smoke-filled rooms are going to benefit the bigger schools, but so that's why I say don't completely ignore the pairwise. But as we've seen the amount of parity that's in college hockey these days. It's not just going to be all Big Ten schools are going to host every game. I mean, look at this year, the top 4 teams: Michigan, okay, traditional big school, big power, all the big school advantages. Mankato, number 2, Denver, number 3, traditional power, and then Western Michigan at number 4. I mean, you'd have 2 teams here, Mankato and Western, which aren't, they're. Minnesota State is not even a full D1 school. And so neither is Denver, although they're, traditional hockey power. So, and there's years that St. Cloud was number 1 overall. It's like, that's not, I don't think that they're a blue blood program. So I think that the parity of college hockey has greatly increased over the last few decades to the fact that, not every year you're going to get the same Michigan, Minnesota, Boston College, Boston University. It's not going to be the same 4 blue bloods that always are at the top of the heap. A lot of times it's going to be the Mankatos or the St. Clouds or, UMass wins the national title last year. There's a lot of parity right now. That's a good thing. So, still using some sort of objective standard to try to help set the field, but then after that, using some judgment as far as how to seed the teams. And then I think the biggest thing would be moving away from the current format. Now, as far as my confidence level that that's going to happen anytime soon, very low, because I don't expect them to do this to make those kind of changes. But
well, the crazy thing to me is that who wins in this scenario? This scenario right now, who is the winner? The host team isn't the winner at all because they have to help foot the bill of putting everything on and whatnot. Fans aren't the winner because it's tough to go to these games. Venues don't want to bid on them, so they're not the winner. It's nobody wins in this situation. The viewership isn't the winner because who's going to watch a game where there's nobody who even wants to go to those games? So no one's going to tune in, even if it is on ESPN3. It's nobody wins where we're currently at. So let's change it. I didn't even expect this to go down this route, but
yeah, maybe we can talk more about it sort of closer to the tournament or sort of closer to the regionals because I got a lot to talk about when it comes to this. But
speaking of, we did get a Twitter question from Robert Poser here. Which regional would have benefit the Huskies? Low attendance, quiet one, or a well-attended, more actively engaged ones? And that's always the caveat is where is your actively engaged regional? And it's probably Loveland because Denver's going to be there. And
even though Denver
would rather not face Denver, are they the host school or?
Yeah, I'd rather not go. That's the one I'd rather not go to. Although at the same time, Denver's going to have home ice, but they don't have fans. So are they going to have a?
That's
also they're going to have a ton of fans there. We don't know.
Nobody likes Denver, so
Albany worked pretty well last year, right? So maybe we'll do Albany again. I guess.
It's Albany, Allentown, Loveland, and Worcester. So those are your
and these you had mentioned about the bidding process and how very few venues bid on these. That's how Notre Dame got its home ice regional a few years ago because no one else had bidded on the regional, which is ridiculous. But the other thing is that's why we get Albany every year. That's why we get Worcester every other year. Manchester, Bridgeport has gotten a slew of regionals. Like who the hell is going to Bridgeport for a regional? And so because there's so few venues that are willing to put in a bid for these. It's why we get this. We're shuffling through the same kind of 5 venues, and then Allentown, which is Penn State. That's the Midwest region. Allentown, New Jersey, which is a state that, correct me if I'm wrong, borders the Atlantic Ocean. That's now the Midwest regional, thanks to Penn State bidding on those. The only thing I know about Allentown is that Billy Joel did a song about that town. I don't know if I would want to go there, but it doesn't really matter. I would not want to go to Loveland because of I don't want to go to Loveland because I don't want to play Denver. But
that's the only thing. No, there is an Allentown in Pennsylvania. That's where this regional's at.
Oh yeah, God, what am I thinking? It's on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It's in the Lehigh Valley region. So it's on the eastern side of I knew it was Pennsylvania. Because it's I think it's in the song. It's like the Steel Town. Like we're living all in Allentown, and I think it's got like a Flashdance kind of vibe to it. Steel Town, but we're still gonna dance and groove to the music. I think that's the whole gist of the song. I mean, leave it up to the master, Billy Joel, to teach me. But
is that where the Uptown Girl was from?
I think so. I think that might have been the same album. Yeah, it was like a concept album, and it was all inspired by the film Flashdance. So yeah, I'd say anything except Loveland, and even like the Albany regional over there last year, as you mentioned, terrible ice conditions. That the BU game, that their coach was not he was not mincing words when he said that the ice conditions were not good. That's what you get.
Well, and then not only that, but when we had the debacle against AIC
Fargo, that was terrible ice
in
too.
Fargo.
They say
the terrible ice conditions.
The theory there is that it's the NCAA requires them to strip away the any logos on the ice. And they have to put their NCAA painting, all the logos on the ice has to be NCAA stuff. So that's why, that Fargo ice is generally viewed as a pretty good ice sheet, because they play their USHL games there, and it's a venue that hosts hockey frequently. It's mainly a hockey arena. And so people were surprised at how terrible it played that year, because it wasn't just the St. Cloud game. That was Denver's was in that regional too, and they had choppy games. And the theory goes is that because they got to basically redo the ice a few days before that, it's a quick turnaround. And what they did last year, they said that they did that whole paint job like a week in advance, and because of that, it let the ice set, or whatever, a lot better than it did the year before, which was or I guess 2 years before, which was the AIC debacle. So last year they said the ice was pretty decent, but it's because they took the initiative of doing the NCAA required crap well in advance, and not every site has that luxury to do that. I think Albany, I know that at least they used to have a AHL team there. I'm not sure if they still do, but it's a lot of these venues, their hockey is not their number one attraction, so they only have a certain amount of time in order to install all the requirements the NCAA puts on them. So yeah, it's a terrible system, and there's a lot of different ways they could tweak it, but as I said, I don't really have a ton of confidence that they will. But
couple other questions here before we wrap up. First off, what's your go-to St. Cloud House of Pizza order? Caleb Peabody, thank you for that. Mine, for my family, it's the House Deluxe, and that's got kind of the top toppings of pepperoni, Italian sausage, mushrooms, onions, green peppers. My wife loves it because there's no olives. My wife is not a black olive fan, so that's why we like to get that. And anytime we get like Papa Murphy's, like they'll have their supreme type pizza, we make sure there's no olives. So I can take or leave them. So I'm okay with them.
I can't do green olives at all. I think green olives are disgusting. Black olives, I'm never going to order them. Not going to go out of my way to order them. But if they're on like a deluxe pizza, fine. But yeah, I'm pretty much the same as far as get those olives off my pizza.
For me, like if it was, wife and I will kind of have our own pizza that we love. And then, our communal pizza where I guess we both make sacrifices. So like my wife loves a pineapple Hawaiian pizza, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Now, I'm not one of those, raise your torches and pitchforks if you like pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, it's very controversial.
I am you do you. You like it, go right ahead. It's not for me. I love pineapple. I love grilled pineapple. But to me, it's the contrast that doesn't work for me with pineapple and pizza. It doesn't work for my taste buds. So I'm not a fan, but you do you if you like it. But for me, like if it was just me, she's on a girls trip or whatnot, and I have House of Pizza ordered and delivered to me, I'm getting a meat at the house. So I'm getting your Italian sausage, Canadian bacon, breakfast bacon, pepperoni, just every meat-based product, just plop it right on there, and I am going to town on that. Wife wants a little bit of variety. I want it. Just give me the whole pig.
I like that. Those are probably the 4 best meat toppings. The breakfast bacon, underrated as a pizza topping. And Italian sausage. So there's some pizza places where their default sausage is like an American sausage, it's almost like breakfast sausage. Somewhere in St. Cloud, that's the default topping. DiMaggio's maybe. So I've learned my lesson to always state Italian sausage. not just sausage, because sometimes it's some, lower grade sausage that they put on there. Italian sausage, definitely the best sausage to put on a pizza, I would say. But yeah, I like that. I like that meat combo. That's a good one. Although I don't know. It's pizza, and generally you can't really go wrong with pizza. I would say I kind of like one meat, one veggie is kind of a decent one. Like Italian sausage, banana pepper is a good combo. Or if you have like a roasted red pepper.
Not a banana pepper fan.
Yeah. Okay. We've hit another controversy here. Wow. Looking at your face, you really don't like that. You don't like banana peppers.
I don't know. I just I bite into a banana pepper, and I'm just disappointed with my life choices that led me to that banana pepper.
So what? So worse than Hawaiian pizza?
No.
Really? Okay. Well, I'm surprised.
No, again, it's the contrast. I'm just not a fan of the contrast.
All right. How about Hawaiian pizza with banana peppers?
Oh God, I would throw that pizza out. Don't. That's not even pizza anymore. It's homework to eat that. Last question. Go to your last meal before the electric chair. Gary's Pizza or Val's. Obviously, you can abstain from the Val's since that's your hot take. If I'm getting Val's, obviously it's a large fry. Whatever burger I get, it's okay. I actually kind of think Val's Burger's a little bit overrated. That's where I go to Burger Time for my burgers.
Ooh, hot take. Come on, Val's hater. Pitchfork Nation, come for Weldie here.
Their fries, though, top tier. Their shakes, top tier. So that's my combination there. And Gary's, I'm getting a thin crust Gary's special.
Here's the question, though. What did you go to the electric chair for?
Italian sausage. Oh, wait, no. What did I go to the
You went to the electric chair for Italian sausage. I wonder how that story played out.
Somebody tried to give me breakfast sausage. So anyway, I started blasting.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah, bah. Anyway, you guys all think I'm a hero, and I'll accept that responsibility.
So, you still watch Always Sunny? I don't watch Always Sunny anymore.
Not in years, and it's still on.
Ran out of
steam. It's still
season
17 or something. I think I gave up around. Well, I didn't give up. It's not something I said I'm not gonna watch it again. I just I don't know, didn't have cable anymore, so I haven't seen it in probably 10 years. But yes, but they were good back when I watched it. Maybe there was 10 seasons probably that I could treat myself to someday.
Well, that about does her. 3 games to recap. That pushes out the podcast a little bit. So thanks everybody for a little bit sitting with us and enjoying us. And any final words there, Andrew?
Well, get the banana peppers.
Get the banana peppers. Worst final words ever. It sounds like that sent a chill down my spine. Banana peppers. Yeah, maybe banana peppers are worse than Hawaiian pizza. I don't order either, so I guess I can't rank them. Either way, I guess better than North Dakota. So,
that we can agree on.
There we go. So until next time, go Huskies. Woo!